Today I'm reacting to your Clash at the Castle Scotland Hot Takes. Hot Takes is a weekly video series where I give you all a platform to be able to voice your thoughts, whether they're good or bad, about the current state of professional wrestling. In today's episode, I've given you the opportunity to send me all of your thoughts and hot takes about Clash at the Castle Scotland. We do special episodes of hot takes like this after every single WWE Premium Live event. So if you want to be featured in next week's Hot Takes video or the Money in the Bank Hot Takes video later in July, make sure that you're following me on X. I'm going to ask for your hot take on there every single Friday and after every single WWE Premium Live event. And as always, don't forget to subscribe to this channel, ring that bell for notifications. If you're a wrestling fan, I'm confident that you're going to fall in love with this YouTube channel because we always upload daily wrestling content. Seriously, there's not a single day that I've missed in over 365 days. Go back to the catalog of videos, you'll see. But now, let's read your stupid shit. Damian Priest has now fully proven himself to be a main event star that can put up a 5-star match with anyone on any condition, even on one leg. He deserves all of the praise. I have to agree with a lot of what you're saying here. I firmly believe that Damian Priest versus Drew McIntyre was as good of a match as it could have possibly been given the two competitors. Never mind the fact that Damian Priest did pretty much all of that in one leg, because that was a nasty, bordering on gruesome accident that happened because he was going at full speed when his leg got trapped in those ropes, which, by the way, are more like super hard cables. Ropes fucking hurt. And he's running at full speed and got caught in his knee, his ankle. It looked really, really bad. And he sold that injury for the entirety of the match. I put sold in air quotes because, my goodness, I don't know how you don't actually get injured from that. I'm concerned that he's legitimately injured, or Damian Priest not only proved that he can have a great match on a big stage with a major star like Drew McIntyre, but he also proved that he can con all of us with his great in-ring psychology of the selling of that injury. Fingers crossed that he was selling, because when I see that at full speed, how it happened, I don't know how you didn't tear some ligaments, because that was so scary. Damian Priest gets all of the flowers from me. I do believe that he has earned in his keep in the main event scene for now and for the foreseeable future. Good job, Damian, but I really hope you're okay more than anything else. Damian Priest winning was the greatest decision WWE could have made. It allows for Drew versus Punk at SummerSlam, which will be cinema. I 100% agree. I do think that this is the right call. I do believe that this opens up the opportunity for Damian Priest to now go explore other feuds and continue to elevate his legacy as a world heavyweight champion and stop having the moniker of being this transitional champion. So I do believe that this is good for Damian Priest, because then Drew McIntyre and CM Punk can go off and do their own thing in what's going to be, what you said, a cinematic feud that doesn't need a title, frankly. I do believe that not having a title involved in CM Punk versus Drew McIntyre is going to make it better. I do think that this is the right call. More than anything, I'm just happy and really shockingly pleased as to how they delivered the surprise at the end. Drew should have won. I entirely disagree with you. I don't know how you could make a good case that Drew McIntyre should have won here, considering his character arc isn't about redemption in front of people. His character arc is a descension into madness, in being so cynical and refusing to believe that everything that happens around him is his fault. Him triumphantly winning in front of his home crowd in Scotland completely does away with the storyline that they've been building. He's not this triumphant babyface trying to overcome the odds. Like, Drew McIntyre is not an underdog by any means. Him having this moment in Scotland would have actually undermined a lot of the work that WWE had done in reviving his character from being a stale babyface to this incredibly entertaining, cynical heel that refuses to believe and take ownership of his own actions and misdeeds. I think that him winning would have actually been entirely detrimental to everything that they've built up for CM Punk, everything that they've built up for Damian Priest even, and more than anything, more than anyone, weirdly enough, I think him walking out with the World Heavyweight Championship, that big celebration in Scotland, in the long term would have been bad for Drew McIntyre. On top of that, this would have completely ruined CM Punk versus Drew McIntyre and the antithesis of the feud as to why it even exists, because then it would have been a World Heavyweight Championship match, but then that means it's about business and about glory and about materialistic things, as opposed to it being a feud of hatred and loathing and jealousy and just wanting to rip somebody's eyes out because you hate them that much. If you put a title in between that, it completely ruins all of that narrative that you've built between CM Punk and Drew McIntyre. I entirely disagree with what you're saying here. Drew McIntyre losing was entirely the right call. I'm just glad, again, I'll say it again, that they found a really unique way for him to lose, for him to once again continue to build up on this awful, cynical character that's great for TV that he's become. Maybe we've been spoiled by other PLEs, but that crowd sucked. Sean, I think you're insane. I don't know how you could possibly think that that crowd sucked. I think maybe your expectations are that every crowd is going to have a song and a chant after every single punch, after every single meaningless 2 count. Leon France is a completely different beast altogether. You compare the Scottish crowd to literally almost any other crowd that the WWE has performed in the past like 10 years, and it is a top 10 crowd. Like, I don't understand what you're getting at here. Maybe you said it yourself. Maybe you've been spoiled too much by this French crowd. But if your expectations are French crowd every single PLE, every single Monday Night Raw, you're going to have a miserable time as a wrestling fan when you tune in to Monday Night Raw in the middle of fucking Tulsa, Oklahoma, where they make no noise and all they do is say, "What?" after every single promo. So yes, I don't know if I made this pretty clear. I completely and utterly disagree with you. I don't know where you got this from. Hate that they didn't give us Broken Dreams. Could have at least gave that song to us one time. Samir, I'm going to take your hot take and I'm going to put it to the side and I'm going to give everyone else my hot take. Broken Dreams isn't that good of a WWE entrance theme. Is it a good song? Sure. Is it a song I'd like to listen to as I'm walking around in a park? Out of time, so say goodbye. Sure, it's a good song. It's a terrible entrance theme. It's so slow. It's not hype. It doesn't create this buzz that his current theme does, even if it is just more like generic fighting and bagpipe sounds. I get way more excited at Drew's current theme than this slow-ass Broken Dreams song. I don't get it. There's just so much love for Broken Dreams as a WWE entrance theme, and I'm just gonna go ahead and throw my hot take out there. That is the most overrated WWE entrance theme of all time. Boo me in the comments. I don't care. Come at me. CM Punk should be banned from ever entering Scotland. I think this would be hilarious. It kind of reminds me of the days back when in like the 70s and 80s when Ric Flair would go to like Puerto Rico and he would do something so dastardly. He would cheat to beat the Puerto Rican hero at the time, and he would literally need to pay for security guards to prevent these people from storming the ring to kill Ric Flair because he was this persona non grata in Puerto Rico. I actually kind of think that CM Punk may have done a bit of a disservice to the Scottish crowd by finding the 3 guys with CM Punk shirts in the front row and celebrating Drew's downfall with them, because it made it sort of feel, at least on screen, that Scottish crowd wasn't as flabbergasted and as hateful towards CM Punk as they probably should have been, as he just screwed over their hometown boy. I don't know if it was CM Punk or maybe those 3 guys wearing CM Punk jerseys in the front row that kind of ruin that allure. But I think it'd be funny if, you know, like the local government of Glasgow put out some joke memo about CM Punk being barred from Glasgow for a year. I think it'd be cool. Chad Gable should have won. You could have had him win and still ditch the Academy for the Creed brothers. This being Gable's 5th IC title loss doesn't look good for him. That's actually kind of nuts. I didn't keep track of how many times he's lost an Intercontinental Championship opportunity, and yeah, it is a total of 5 times, and that is kind of crazy. I personally would have liked the idea of Alpha Academy finally helping him win the Intercontinental Championship and him still ditching them for the Creed brothers. It seems like they're going to go the other way around, where the Alpha Academy ditched Chad Gable instead in the middle of the match, and then he's going to seek out refuge with the Creed brothers and Ivy Nile. Either way, it gets us to the same end goal, but I do kind of understand the sentiment of this guy that you've been building so well for the past several years consistently losing time after time after time. However, I also have to play devil's advocate here, and I actually agree with the devil in this scenario, where all of his losses have compounded and made the great character that we have today. So just like Drew McIntyre celebrating, having this great confetti moment in Scotland would have kind of ruined all of the good stuff that they've been doing to Drew's character, it's possible that Chad winning the Intercontinental Championship may have done the same, because his character right now, the most popular he's ever been, the most over he's ever been, the most important that he's ever been, has actually been built off the fact that he can't win the IC Championship. So I don't know. It's possible that all of that comes tumbling down if he wins the thing that he's been gunning after, but it's the fact that he's been not being able to win the damn thing that he's been gunning after that's made him so popular recently. You see the two sides of the coin here? Drew will not win the title for a long time after this. I partially agree, and I actually don't think that that's a bad thing. I actually think that Drew McIntyre has ascended so much into the main event stratosphere of Monday Night Raw and the WWE as a whole that he is now one of those rare main event guys that never needs to be near the title picture to feel like a main event guy. CM Punk is one of those people, and now I believe that Drew McIntyre is in that echelon as well. There are WWE superstars, in my opinion, that really are only main event players because they either are holding a title in the main event scene or they have feuds and matches for the main event scene. But as soon as they're removed from that equation, they're no longer main event. I think a good example is actually The Miz. The Miz is a main event top tier player only when he's going after the title. And you know, you could debate as to whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, but Drew McIntyre, I believe, with the great work that he's done, has moved away from there where he can be a main event player, even being 10, 15 degrees separated from the title. And I think that's good for Drew McIntyre. Even though Punk costing Drew was obvious, it was still good and a perfect example of, quote, obvious isn't always bad. Dude, I entirely agree with what you're saying here. I've been a huge advocate on this channel that something being obvious doesn't necessarily mean that it's bad. I've always used the analogy, and I'm sure if you're a longtime viewer here, you're probably sick of it. It's okay for 2 + 2 to equal 4. But here's what they did, okay? They still gave us the answer of 4, but instead of saying 2 + 2 = 4, they did 2 × 2 = 4. It's the same end result, but they found a way to get us to that end result that we expected in a different, really unique way. I was completely caught off guard. I did not see the CM Punk referee angle coming. I thought that it was genuinely brilliant. I thought that they were going to rehash the past with a hooded figure coming in and stopping the count, but this was perfect, right down to the last minute detail. Unholy Union winning the women's tag titles was the right decision. I think it was the right decision for a couple of reasons. One, there's no way you could have had 3 Scots in 3 separate title matches and have all 3 of them lose. You would have lost all of the good grace with the Scottish crowd had you done that. So I'm glad that at least one of the crowd favorites in the Unholy Union walked out as champions as a nice little olive branch to the crowd in Scotland. However, I also think it was the right call for what it does for Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill. And I need you to stick with me here for a second, because I actually believe that Jade Cargill and Bianca Belair were instrumental, so important for elevating the women's tag titles. Think about the women's tag titles for a second. They have now been featured at WrestleMania. They've been featured at Backlash, King and Queen of the Ring, and now here in Clash at the Castle, Scotland. So that is 4 consecutive PLEs. Sorry, I'm reverting back to the old days. That is 4 consecutive PLEs that the women's tag titles were directly highlighted in a premium live event. And that is all because of Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill. They elevated that division simply by existing within that division because they are megastars. I think that there's going to be a couple of ripple effects of them leaving this division. I do think that this division will now significantly drop in importance in terms of TV time and PLE time. I just think that that's just a natural casualty of losing 2 massive stars, Bianca Belair being the biggest star right now in the women's division, the biggest star that they've seen in a long time. Losing them from that division is undoubtedly going to hurt that division. However, they are desperately needed right now in the main event scene, especially over on Monday Night Raw, where Liv Morgan has virtually no one to feud with because everyone else is either busy in a different feud, we're waiting for somebody to come back from injury, or everyone else is in the tag team division. Liv Morgan doesn't have anybody. And now we have Money in the Bank coming up. You have the opportunity to have both of them in Money in the Bank and reinserting them back into maybe the Raw and the SmackDown main event scene, where I think that they could both be desperately used they desperately need them, is what I'm trying to say. So was it the right call? I do think so. I do think that it's ultimately going to be at the expense of the women's tag team division, but we'll see. As a Brit who was at Clash at the Castle, part of me thinks this show should have been in Ireland. Picture this: Drew gets screwed in Wales, he gets screwed in Ireland, he maybe gets screwed in England, but he finally wins in Scotland. The UK fans would salivate for that. I think that's a hilarious way to do like this tour of UK of Drew McIntyre just getting screwed over. I really do like the fantasy booking. It's neat. I just think it would just take too long to get to the payoff of what would this be, like 4 straight years of Clash at the Castle? I have autism. When I see that Prime logo in the ring, my vision hyper focuses on it and all the other senses are drowned out. So it could be an Infinity Star match, wouldn't matter. Prime logo ruins the pay-per-view. So obviously I can't relate to you because I don't have autism. For me, the Prime logo is more or less invisible, so I don't notice it. I mostly picked this out not to try and argue with you or disagree with you, but more so to bring light that there are different types of wrestling fans that are going to view things differently. And people with autism and people that hyper focus on different stimuli, that's never something that I ever considered. So I wanted to bring light to this so that other people see it. Randy Orton loves taking a peek. That freaking photo, dude. I think it was a brilliant way to get Randy Orton inserted into the vocabulary of wrestling fans as we start to fantasy book Cody Rhodes' next couple of months, because just that slight stare is such a great way to get everyone's brains and gears turning as to how we inevitably get from Randy Orton versus Cody Rhodes, considering SummerSlam is around the corner and it seems to be like The Rock is going to be out with this injury. I don't know that they can run Cody Rhodes versus Roman Reigns again so quickly at SummerSlam, and I don't think that Solo Sikoa has the aura to be the guy that goes up against Cody Rhodes at SummerSlam. Randy Orton is kind of a perfect guy, and this was such a perfect seed to plant to get us all start with this conversation about Cody versus Randy Orton at SummerSlam. Blood was much needed for that Cody/AJ match. I agree. I think that if you have a feud that boils to the point of an I Quit match, you can absolutely dip into the bag of tricks and bring out some blood. I'm glad that it wasn't gratuitous. It wasn't, like John Cena versus JBL, that I Quit match at Judgment Day 2003 or 2004, whatever it was, 2005. Jesus Christ, man, I'm starting to lose track of the Ruthless Aggression era. It wasn't Eddie Guerrero versus JBL levels of blood, but it was a good amount of blood to tell us, the viewers, that this is a serious fight. These guys hate each other, and it goes beyond just having a good wrestling match. These guys want to cause as much pain to one another as possible. And I do believe that ultimately helps with the immersion as a wrestling fan to get involved into believing everything that they're trying to tell us in the ring. So I think it was a good call. I'm not somebody that craves for blood in the WWE. I think that there are other companies that frankly overdo it and completely desensitize me to the idea of having a bloody match, but the WWE does it so seldomly that when it does, it works. It gets its hooks in me. Cody let loose some heel work there at the end, maybe a setup to get his turn later down the line. I saw a lot of this as well, but I actually completely disagree. Cody Rhodes is such a John Cena. I think it's the closest thing that I could compare him to, where he is going to be a babyface for the rest of his life in the WWE. He's not going to turn heel. Frankly, we saw John Cena do this numerous times in I Quit matches as well, where the person quits or the match is over and then John Cena does something to really accentuate the match, to really drive it home. JBL's a perfect example where he's quitting right before he gets AA'd off of a limousine, and he quits and John Cena still AA's him anyway, and Cena never turned heel. These are just the top baby faces digging into the ruthlessness that they're absolutely capable of bringing out into the surface without changing their moralities. We see it all the time. I don't think that this is the start of a Cody Rhodes heel turn. Hearing the commentary table talk about, quote, what's next for Styles after he loses feels like a little nod to AJ switch to TNA in the next few weeks. 100%. I think this has to be it. Michael Cole straight up baited and allowed TNA chants at the Glasgow press conference that they did for Clash at the Castle, where he straight up asked, so AJ, if you lose, what's next for you? And then they both stayed quiet and allowed the TNA chants to get louder and louder to the point where they were being chanted by everyone in that press conference that was in attendance. They baited those TNA chants. They want you to know that this partnership is actually a thing, and they want you to start fantasy booking and fantasizing about the idea of AJ Styles going back home over there, because I do think it's the best natural step for him if this partnership is going to be that deep and interwoven. I wanted a Joe Hendry pop. I don't know why people thought Joe Hendry was going to be there. The man was literally in the closing segment of the TNA pay-per-view that happened the night before. He closed the show at around, what, like 11:30 at night or so, and then he has to hop on a 7.5, 8-hour flight to Scotland to be ready for Clash at the Castle, which would have aired in like 10 hours, giving him 3 hours. No, dude, that was never going to happen. It just, I don't know. I don't know why people thought it was going to happen. Also, Joe Hendry was never going to be debuted in such a huge place. I understand he's Scottish and a lot of people would know him, but this is primarily a TNA and NXT relationship. When you hear Joe Hendry's theme, it's going to be in the NXT arena, not in a packed house WWE main roster PLE. All right, folks, thank you so much for sending in your hot takes for Clash at the Castle. It was a great show. Thank you so much for watching it with me, and thank you so much for watching this video, but that's it. I'm done. Get out of here.